One of the most horrible things about my little sister being hit by a car, aside from her being in intensive care and nearly dying, one of the most horrible things was my dad. When my sister was hit by a car, the driver had driven through a red light and he completely got away with it. He got like a 2-year driving ban. She was in intensive care. She was in a coma. She has a brain injury now. She had to have 8 brain surgeries. She had to learn how to walk and talk again. She missed years of school. She was 17 years old. And it happened on New Year's Day. Every Christmas, I don't live with my mum and my sisters, right? I live just me and my daughter. Every Christmas, me and my daughter go to my mum and my sisters to spend time with them. So the Christmas just before the accident, so 7 days before my sister's accident, maybe 6 days, I have to calculate. Me and my 2 sisters were sitting at the dinner table, waiting for the turkey. And my older sister asked me and my younger sister, would we want our dad to walk us down the aisle if we get married? Now, both my sisters at this point hadn't seen him since they were 10. I was the only one that was still in touch with my dad on and off. And I can go into why in another video, but I was the only one sort of in touch with him. So when I was asked that question, my answer was I wouldn't want him to walk me down the aisle, but I would want him there. I would call my dad out of habit. I don't hate my dad, but I've never seen him as a dad either. So I said he can come to my wedding, but I don't want him to walk me down the aisle. Both my sisters were they wouldn't even want him at the wedding. Wouldn't even want him there. So that's fair enough. My older sister then said, would you want him there at your funeral? Now that was where I was a bit actually, I'm not sure I would. Because he barely talks to us. He barely puts effort in with us. Would I want him at my funeral crying like we were besties? So I said, I don't know. My older sister said no, and my younger sister, the one who was hit by a car, said absolutely not. She would not want him at her funeral. Fast forward a couple of days, she gets hit by a car, she's in intensive care, she's put in an induced coma, she has 3 brain surgeries the night she went in. My dad found out through me because I couldn't go to the hospital because I had to stay at home with my daughter. I found childcare for her the next day, went to the hospital, saw my sister the next day. The evening it happened, I couldn't go to the hospital, so I told my dad about it. I didn't find out until the next day that my dad, after he got off the phone to me, went to the hospital. Problem is, my dad's an alcoholic, and it was my stepmom that drove him because he can't drive because he drinks and he doesn't have a license anyway. So my stepmom had driven him to Tooting, St George's Hospital, where my sister was staying, and as soon as he got to the intensive care unit waiting room, is begging to go in and see my sister. My mum doesn't want him to go in there because he's drunk. Obviously my sister is not conscious, so my sister wouldn't be aware he was there, but all the other patients would. A lot of patients who were in this intensive care unit were there due to heart attacks and strokes. My older sister doesn't want him in there because she had remembered the conversation where my younger sister had said that she wouldn't want our dad there. So my older sister was like, no, you can't come in, she wouldn't want to see you, I'm glad I wasn't there because they would have all tried to put me in the middle because I was the messenger between them, because I got on with both of them but none of them got on with each other. So I'm actually really glad I wasn't there. In the end, the nurses asked my dad to leave because he was just so drunk and being so loud and just ugh. And my dad has major rejection and abandonment issues, so I mean he never came back. That sounds like a really simplified version, but basically he never came back to the hospital, and he hasn't seen my sister since. This was 9 years ago. I did ask my sister when she eventually came out of her coma, when she could speak again, and when I didn't feel like it'd be too stressful to ask, I did ask her, did they make the right decision? Because I wasn't part of the decision. I didn't say, yes, you can see your daughter, no, you can't. I didn't do any of that. I stayed well out of it. And my younger sister said, no, I'm really glad they didn't let him see me. Because to be fair to her, our dad, literally hadn't seen her in 10 years. And she didn't want him to be oh my God, my daughter, who, when she was alive, he didn't bother about, but now she's dying, he cares. So I see where my younger sister was coming from. But it was just a really horrible time because I would still visit my dad while my sister's in the coma. My dad, if he'd had a bit too much to drink, he would be convince them to let me. And then the next minute be well, actually, I don't even want to see her. I don't even care. And my dad's kind of scary when he's drunk. He's not, he's not he's not good to be around. But yeah, other than her nearly dying, that was probably the worst part. That and the driver getting away with it. I don't know, it was all shit. It was all a load of shit.